All right.
Right on the dot.
Yes, we're here, everybody.
Not fooling around.
Good to see you guys.
Good evening, Sweden.
Good evening. Yeah, I think we picked a good time.
I think so.
I think there's going to be...
It allows for Europe to
Yeah.
see us at night, West Coast to see us at noon.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you guys have to let us know if you're, like, what times are good for you. Hey, Jeffrey's here. Hey, Jeffrey.
Hi, everybody. All right, so we have a lot to talk about today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean we're going to talk about
news.
probably a lot of stuff that we're going to cover in our in-depth. But we're still kind of forming ideas and coming up with stuff.
Your thoughts could help us with that.
We are talking about Discord.
Yep.
That started already.
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. We started it earlier than we thought we were going to. We thought we were going to have it up on Tuesday. We got it done Sunday night because we're so productive.
Yep. And because we got a lot of help.
Yes, a lot of people were very helpful, and we have some quite a few nice moderators on there.
James likes Discord.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got a lot of really wonderful people on Discord.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, if you're not on Discord, you got to get on Discord because you are paying for Discord.
Right.
So we should, make sure that you guys are all on Discord. And if you need any help, you can message us on Patreon and I'll try and send you the links of how to set it up because it is a bit confusing.
And we have some things to talk about Discord during this live stream. Because I mean, we need some of your thoughts. So that's coming up. And then, we've got so much to dive into. I feel like we should start with what's on our minds. We've been talking about this. I think we're going to do our in-depth on what's going on right now with Tesla. So as you know, on Friday, Tesla took a big hit to the stock price, about 12% drop, because Tesla announced that they are cutting 7% of their workforce. So that's roughly 3,100 employees, give or take. And I did a little bit of research to try and find out what the average salary is, but it really depends on your job. So if you got engineer in your title, you're earning about $100,000. It ranged from like 92,000 for process engineers up to 108 for like technical engineers. But so around 100,000. But then I don't know if many of these jobs are on the engineering side. I don't think they're on the construction of the car side, although maybe they're getting so efficient that they're able to cut back on some of those people. I was thinking it was delivery people.
I think that it's almost certainly delivery people and, people at the showrooms and stuff like that. Because here's what I think happened. Basically, they started delivering cars, and then the ramp happened, and it really happened, and they just kept up that delivery. For every car that gets made, they deliver it, right? So it just got crazy. They had to bring on a ton of new people on board. They had to do it very quickly. And I think that is probably the pinnacle of it. The biggest thing I think is that they had to get in before this deadline, the $7,500 full tax credit deadline. I think that they were really, really, really pushing to get as many cars out as possible. I think that even beyond a typical business sense of, cost benefit analysis of okay, we can spend, this amount of money to make this amount of money. I think that they were spending a little bit more than they, monetarily should have in order to get as many cars out the door as possible, which is why their profits were a minuscule amount lower. Which is another thing that people are freaking out about. But basically, that I think is what lowered the profits. I think that if they had
Q4,
if they had slowed
we don't know
down,
what Q4 is yet, but
true. But I mean, if they had slowed down their deliveries for Q4 and just been like, we're gonna try and do it as I don't know, as economically as possible, we could have a higher margin per car. But they were pushing for that $7,500 tax credit to give as many people that opportunity as possible. And yes, on the one hand, you're saying these people are willing to put up an extra $3,500 because they're going to get the tax credit. But on the other hand, I think that they just want to get as many cars out as possible, because as soon as they hit a critical mass.
Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
He cut the cost of the car by $2,000. Here's what seems weird to me is if you add up all these little stories that we've been reporting to over the past few months, they just seem to be weirdly not fitting together. If what you're looking for is profit in Q4, then why do you cut the cost of the car by $2,000? I mean, I know that's probably to spur some sales, but I don't know. Is that a wise idea? I mean,
I think that sales are more important than making money at this point. I think that you're basically, instead of worrying about money, he is more worried about the market.
Yeah. Can you talk about your PayPal example?
So when Elon started PayPal, it was not called PayPal at the time. It was let me hang on. Sorry. Okay. When he started PayPal at the time, no one had ever used online banking. That was not a thing at all. No one trusted it. No one thought that you could do that. So he came up with online banking. He came up with it so that it was secure and that you could actually do it. And was it X.com or was it Zip2?
No, it was
X.com.
X.com.
So
Zip2 was the company before.
In order to get market share, he would just be like, okay, if you sign up, you get $20 for free.
Yeah, I think it was even more. I think it was like 50.
50?
Yeah.
So that was an incentive for people to just be like, I was on the fence about online banking,
but I got $50.
But I got $50 free dollars. Right. Why wouldn't I start doing it? And then once you had $50 to spend and you went and spent it on eBay at the time, you were like, oh, wow, that was super easy.
Right.
Now I'm into it. I'm excited about it. And he didn't have to pay $50 to every single person who ever signed up for PayPal. He just had to get a critical mass of people who believed in the product and who would talk about it to other people, to be like, no, man, I used it and it was great. And I did it on eBay and I got this thing where you can't get anywhere else because it's 2000. I don't even know what year it was. I was so young. I don't have a frame of reference.
Right.
Because it was
2006.
2006-ish.
Yeah. I have to go back
for eBay stuff. Yeah, around there. And I think that was the kicker, getting those people to be like, yeah, it works. It snowballs, right? Because then you have someone else. I convince Zach. Zach says, oh, it does work. Right. Then you go to someone else. He goes to you and says, oh, I think it works. I mean, now you're a customer.
I'll give you, so I was around during that time. And when eBay was around, and I stayed away from eBay because of that reason. Like, how do you make sure you get your stuff? And a friend of mine was into eBay. Everything in his house was from eBay. He'd point things out. Oh, I just got the toaster on eBay. And I'm like, what? Right. And I'm like, how do you pay for it? How do you trust that it works? And he was like, PayPal. And I'm like, I know, but doesn't that mean they have access to your bank accounts? And he's like, no, it's really easy. And so that night, I think I remember being like, well, my buddy Chris said it was fine. So I'm going to try it.
Right.
And I bought like a $12 item and it worked. And I was just like, oh, this is great.
I think that is what's happening for everyone who's getting their Model 3s.
Do you see for those of you who've been in an electric car, though, do you see the difference? Before electric cars, you're like, I don't know, so many questions. Right. And then you get in it, you're like, oh, this is great.
Right. And I mean, that is the key. That's why I love giving test rides and test drives to people, because until they experience it, they don't fully understand it.
So you're saying that a Model 3 is kind of like, and the things that you do to get them in that Model 3 is kind of like the $50 to start a PayPal account. It's like, it's more important to get a critical mass of EV users. I don't know what that magic number is, but those people are then talking to friends and driving around. And you see these cars. And like I think, why does Fred have one in his driveway?
Right. And they've done a very smart and strategic thing, by starting out with the Roadsters. You get that kind of circle of people, of very elite, able to buy that much, spend that much money on a car. Then you get the Model S. And again, that's still very elite, very high priced vehicles and stuff like that. Now you're getting the Model 3, which is a much bigger chunk of the population is going to be able to afford Model 3s, even if they're not selling the $35,000 version yet. What you're doing is, since you can only pump a certain number off of the lines as possible, and you need to give those immediately to people, they're not going on lots to sit around for months and months and to have lowered prices or whatever. You're able to just sell them off. That's great because you're actually able to make a profit. But each of those people is selling the cars to other people, because there is no way you can get in a Model 3, own a Model 3, and not want to show it off.
Right. I want to just say we're getting some really good comments here, and I just want to highlight some of them. So one came in here from Arlene, and she said, and I can't find her now.
Is it further up?
Maybe it was. Yeah, Arlene said, I'm thinking the 7% is preparation for the $920 million in bonds coming due in March. And that's a really good point, is that there's a big debt load that has to be paid off in March. And so, yeah, I'll bet you the CFO is like, Elon, we need some cash.
Right.
And so that is a really good point.
Right.
So that might be a big deadline they're working towards. Then we got another really good comment here from Kyle, who says, a former engineer of mine works at Gigafactory 1 on the modular line, and he stated most of the personnel cuts there were from contractor engineers and temp workers, no cuts to any full-time engineers.
Right. And that sounds about right to me.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think it's a deep cut. Like, a lot of people just, they're able to put layoffs on the, I mean, I took some screenshots of some of the things,
of some of these news stories.
Some of these news stories, which are,
well, and while you're looking for that, I mean, Gally on Hyperchange the other day was pointing out that Tesla did a big 9% cut in June of 2018.
Right.
And let's just go back to that time period. Same kind of thing happened. Oh my God, 9% cut.
Right.
The sky is falling, and
I mean, just look at that. Let's see if I can focus on this. I mean, just look at that.
Ah!
Right. What the? Come on.
Right. That's not news. You don't, we need a image to get to that.
Oh, is Elon crazy? He laid off 3,000 people.
But let's talk about what happened. Right. The shorts were waiting, every day, just waiting, culling through the news. Is there negative news today? Is there negative news?
Right.
And then when they saw a nice, this is perfect,
this is a juicy slab of FUD.
Nice slab of FUD. And so they pulled their strings. And what do I mean by that? The market can be manipulated on a daily basis. Like, you can't make a stock go down forever, but you can, as we've seen many times with Tesla stock. I mean, just look at its stock price. It's one of the most swinging, volatile stocks that you're going to see. And it's a big, high market cap stock, which is harder to do it in.
Right.
So you got players who are able to swing. I mean, they swung at 12%.
Right.
That's incredible. They had to do a lot to do that, though.
Right.
But that makes the story so much more strong. Imagine if the story had come out, and just like with GM did cutbacks, right? Big, tens of thousands of workers.
15,000 workers, yeah.
And their stock price went up by about 5%.
Right.
Up 5%.
Exactly.
So if you do this on Tesla's stock and it's like, cuts back, stock price is down. Now the stock price down becomes a story.
Exactly.
We've talked about this before. So now you've got this double, like, oh, now you got a snowball going. It's like, oh, the stock's tanking. It's just another opportunity to buy. I've seen a bunch of comments here like that the stock is cheap. Yes, you've got one more opportunity to buy it.
Right. And I mean, we've been seeing so many of these. I mean, through the kind of the summer and the fall, it was just a constant up-down battle. Then we kind of had, when the Q3 numbers came out, it was like, wow. And then kind of, I don't know. It's always been crazy.
The other thing is Tesla doesn't handle news like other companies do. Other companies go through their press department and they really massage it and spin it and get a whole bunch of things lined up so that it comes out the way they want the storyline to go. Tesla just, Elon tweets it, and then it's just like, boom, and everyone can run with it however they want. That does make a huge effect if you think about it, because most of the time when you hear about other news, it's already been massaged so much. And by that, I mean, they've got certain people and certain places to talk about it a certain way and to leak it out slowly and put a certain spin on it so that when you get it, by the time you get that news, it's been spun. That is different than Elon tweeting out, cutting 7% workforce, and he just drops this, letter on people. And so, again, do you think that this means the end of Tesla? Is this news that means the end of Tesla? Because if so, then great, sell all your stock.
Right. But no, it's insane.
Elon is threading the needle here. He's trying to thread the needle. He's trying to grow this company, right? And he has to make lots of moves. And not all of them make sense to us because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. For instance, let's talk about the referral program for a second. So as part of this news, we hear that to keep Model 3s as affordable as possible, to get that price down to $35,000, he's cutting, the referral program was going to go till March. It's now ending February 1st.
Right.
And the news is they're giving away, 80 Roadsters. It's actually probably more than that. But let's, again, do some math.
Right.
The cars themselves don't cost $250,000.
Right.
That's the value they put on the car.
Right.
There's probably a 50% markup or something on a car that expensive. Exactly. So it's probably half of that. So if I did a little math, if I think they're giving away more than 100 cars,
yep,
and I think that it's costing them $12.5 million in cars. That's 100 cars times $125,000.
And extremely cheap.
If you add up the number of cars that refers like Jesse and I have sold, it's over $500 million. So
it's cheap.
It's wicked cheap.
Really cheap.
You can't run an ad campaign for $12.5 million. Like that would get you what would that get you? Like hardly anything.
It would maybe, you wouldn't be able to do a Super Bowl commercial.
Probably
for
not
that much.
Probably not.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to get on any like major network
right.
at a prime time.
Right. You would just have a few ads floating around that hardly anyone would see.
Right. So, I mean, it would.
Because just put this, GM spend over $3 billion in advertising.
Right.
So this is nothing.
Exactly.
And what do YouTubers like us do? We're constantly getting the word out. And when we get that Roadster, what are we going to do with it? Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the Roadster. So we're confirmed that we're getting at least one Roadster.
Right.
Hopefully, knock on wood.
Right.
We have a lot of plans for it. Obviously, we have to visit. There are about 300 people that we have
over
to visit
300 people
in the whole world.
Right. We're talking continents.
Right. We're basically all of North America for the most part. I mean, I don't think we can get too much farther than the Supercharger network.
Right. And I don't know if we're going to Mexico.
I do not think so.
Right. I don't think so.
Not with the Roadster.
Right.
Not at the moment.
Right.
So that's
right. So it's north of the border. It's U.S. and Southern Canada.
And then we also have secured a Roadster for use in Europe.
Right.
So that's awesome. We're going to be able to visit all of these people. So that's a lot of visiting people that we're going to have to do. On top of that, we're saving and scrimping and hoping that maybe we can cajole a Tesla semi-truck.
I mean, that's happening. It's just that
right.
It's not going to be free.
Right.
we have to buy that.
Right.
Right. And then I do want to point out that before you can even take ownership of the Roadster, you have to prepay the tax on it.
Right.
So depending on what country you're in, like the European one costs more in tax than the American one, but like a European one could cost as much as like $120,000 in taxes.
Yep.
Here, probably $60,000 to $80,000 in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, not free. And so then if you plan our trip, right, we need security. We need all sorts of logistics like hotels and feeding the crew. We're going to need some kind of crew of people. We're going to need to be changing tires a lot because the Roadster tires are specially formulated for speed, but they're not formulated to last. Mm-hmm. So doing all of those 0 to 60s, we're just going to chew through rubber. Then just general, like we're not going to be working our normal jobs. We're going to be shooting episodes. So we're going to be uploading and figuring out all that kind of. So it's just like crazy amount of stuff. And I know that a lot of people out there are like, oh, you guys are so lucky you're getting these free cars. But we're not the typical people who are getting a car where we're going to put it shiny in our garage and never let it be touched by air. We're getting these cars out to you guys and showing them off. So that's just part of it. That's getting it to the people who used our referral code.
Right.
Then we're going to be putting on events where everyone can come and experience all sorts of cool stuff.
Right. Because we're going to have a semi-truck.
Right.
And we also have been in talks with different EV companies. So,
right.
Arcimoto, Unity, Altus, I believe.
Yep.
Hopefully, we will be able to show up to wherever with a Roadster, semi-truck. Semi-truck will be carrying probably the Roadster, and Model X, a Model 3, a Unity car, Arcimoto, Altus. Hopefully, we could get
Rivian. We should have a Rivian.
Right, a Rivian. We'll hopefully have, I just want to have a huge mass of cars, and hopefully we can also, it'll be so big that we'll be able to be like, hey, Jaguar, bring your I-Pace, and on the sole condition that you give people rides in it.
Exactly.
If we're the ringleaders of this circus, we can call the shots and be like, BMW, if you are going to be bringing your iNext or whatever it is, because this will be in a few years, you have to give rides in it. You can't just sit a car on a pedestal and have everyone gawk at it.
I love these two last comments. Zerika Can asks, how are you getting the semi truck? Well, first of all, we've already put down a deposit. We're number 65 on the list. So how are we getting it? Paying off the rest of the truck. And Arlene says, this road trip is going to be awesome PR for Tesla, very close to impractical for manufacturer. Really good point. That's why Tesla needs people like us, because we're completely impractical and completely crazy, and we're willing to do this because we love what they're doing.
Right.
It doesn't make any financial sense what we're doing, but we're doing it because we love spreading the word.
Right. And I mean, and we can kind of tailor each of these events. You know, if we're going to be in the middle of Idaho, we can reach out to electric tractor companies.
Exactly.
Bring your electric tractor. We'll show it off. We'll have
exactly.
farmers.
Crafty Geek says a roving auto CES.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, it's not just that. It'll be a roving EV show that isn't. I don't want to throw any shade on EV shows. They're great. They're wonderful for adoption. But a lot of times, either through, you know, for whatever reason, test rides aren't a big feature of it. There is just a lot of opening your frunk and putting something funny in it, or talking about it, which is useful. It's helpful, but I don't think that it quite gets the spirit rolling as much as having a sick roadster there doing burnouts all the way down the track. Having a semi truck that's also doing stuff like that. Having every kind of imaginable car of every shape and size right there at your fingertips. So you get the whole gambit. You get to see everything and make decisions. I think that is going to change people's minds. And the cool part is that will hopefully get local press.
Well, let's talk about local press. So, because I just talked to the CEO and founder of Solectrac, which is an electric tractor company. And they had one little story written about them in the Toronto Evening Star or something. It was a little newspaper. And it got him 200 people who contacted him and said, like, electric tractor, I need to find out more. Wasn't a big story. And in fact, that same story was shared to me by one of our viewers. And that's how I got in touch with him. Like, amazing connections. But in talking to him, he's been working on this for 25 years. And so he's got a lot of knowledge, right? But he's never been able to make inroads with farmers. Why? Because when he talks to farmers, he didn't have a prototype until very recently. So it was all just, hey, farmer, I'm making an electric tractor.
Cool. Tell me more about, I don't believe you.
Right. And then the farmer would say things like, but don't I need to have an extension cord running from it to my farm? And he could never get through. Like they were just, he said most farmers are they've grown up doing it a certain way and they've seen other farmers using their trucks. So that's what they're going to use. And I was saying, hey, when we get this semi and we're driving around the country, if we put one of your tractors into the back, roll it out in the middle of Iowa and let some farmers hop on it and do some work with it, that's how you're going to change minds.
Exactly.
Because that's the same as getting in a Model 3 and going for a test ride. This is their test ride.
Right. And I mean, this is the really cool thing about this YouTube channel. It is not just us being like, hey guys, yo, check out this cool camera that we got. Whoa, isn't that neat? All right, bye. We have this community. You are part of our community. If you're not on Discord, again, let's get you on Discord. Message me, whatever. Let's figure that out. But not only that, we are able to just reach out to basically anyone. You know, what's the Antarctica one?
Clean to Antarctica.
Clean to Antarctica. We reach out. They say hello. Yes, we would love to talk to you, and we're able to connect. We're switchboard operators, basically.
Yep.
And that is so powerful and exciting because that is, I think, the unseen. You know, when people talk to me about YouTube, they're like, oh, cool. So like advertise your money and stuff like that. And it's like, no, not really.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to basically produce clickbait all the time to get to get views.
Right.
So you'd have to be like, whoa, explosion. Click on this. You can't not click on it. Which gets all the, 14-year-olds on their smartphones watching videos and laughing or whatever. But this is the powerful thing.
To your point.
Yeah.
Arlene just said, crazy thought. You could have Tesla owners join in caravan for portions of the trip, like Crafty said, roving CES.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Like we put the word out like, hey, we're going to be in Indiana. Anyone want to join up for a parade?
Right. And here's the thing. We could be sorry. I'll try and sorry, Kevin. Good call. All right.
Kevin said that the video stream is breaking up due to all of the expressive movement.
Sorry, I will try to be less expressive, but I'm very excited. Well, what we can do is, you people out there who happen to live in a particular location can help us in setting things up.
Exactly.
We're going to meet people. We have people who are
Zirkan said it was better before.
Okay. We have people who are our fans who, live on farms. If you'd, be willing to spare an acre for some kind of an event where we bring a whole bunch of electric tractors and also the Roadster and the semi truck, and we can show you what that's like, all of those different things, what that's like. Right. That's huge. And how else would we have done it if we were just some sort of company of like, oh, we're an EV company and no one's ever heard of us? Mm-hmm. There's no way that we could convince someone to be like, please let us use your farm.
Right. Yeah, good point there, Michael. He says maybe work with the Drive Electric Week folks. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm envisioning that it's almost like a circus. Right. It's this sort of roving, as you said, like a roving auto CES.
Right.
I think it would be a roving auto EV show.
Right.
And I mean, it's not just going to be cars. There's going to be, I want solar companies. I want, we talked to the CEO of the solar cooker. What was that? GoSun.
Yep.
I want him to be there.
Yeah. Catering the event.
Yeah, exactly. With the sun or
right.
Stuff like that. It should be all the things we talk about.
Yeah. Zirkan is asking, when should production of the semi truck start? End of 2019 or 2020? I mean, we were told 2019, but let's just assume Elon time. So let's assume, 2020.
But. Right. And I mean, at that point, it might be unnecessary. Who knows?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I suppose it wouldn't be, because I mean, we're still predicting that 2023 is going to be kind of the year of the electric car for
like where the ramp really goes vertical.
It really goes vertical,
mm-hmm.
and it crazy. But I think that it's important. I think that this idea
it's super important. I mean,
important.
It's all about moving that graph faster. I mean, right. That's it's going to happen eventually. It has to, or else the planet will completely die.
Right.
But it's moving it faster.
Right.
That's important.
We don't have anything planned for this event.
No,
or these events.
But you're right, John. We do need security. That's any of you out there who are good at security, like we might be asking for your help.
Right. And I mean, it would be really cool to have members of our community all kind of come together to make this happen. It's something this kind of thing doesn't happen very often.
No,
I don't think that that there are too many people who have created a movement. It's right. not. This is almost what we're talking about is beyond a community and into a movement, and that could be very exciting. It's so exciting, but it is going to be insanely expensive.
True. Right. I mean, James says here, your show should be an overall education. Like if people get an EV, what do they need in the home to charge? How can they get solar in there, et cetera? Exactly. Yeah. And I think that seeing a bunch of people who are actually doing it makes people change faster.
Absolutely.
Because they go by and they're like, what is that? And because Jesse and I have seen it so many times, we understand more how humans work because we've seen it. They walk up to you like, what is this craziness? And then 20 minutes later, they're part of the craziness.
Right. It's very important that you're physically there, that there's physically stuff around, because you can watch a YouTube video about anything. Right. Someone can be like, oh, today I'm going to, make something out of paper and it's going to cut through steel or, whatever, some crazy thing. Mm-hmm. You've seen all the craziest things on the internet.
Right.
And especially in like the YouTube comments, no one's going to get convinced in the YouTube comments. No. It doesn't matter what link you share, what argument you come up with.
Right.
No one's going to believe you because you're just a little box on a screen.
Right.
No one cares. When you walk up to a real live person who has lots of people who know that person and they all are watching and they're excited, or if you get into the car and you experience the actual physical act of moving in an EV, that is truly the thing.
Riley says he bought some more Tesla stock yesterday, taking advantage of all these drops. Very smart. Because as you remember, we talked about in depth, and again, we're not financial advisors, mm-hmm. but if things go well with Teslas, we hope they do, there's no reason why this won't look a lot like stock charts for other companies who have disrupted, like Amazon and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, right. All this talk about being in the $300 range will seem quite quaint in a few years, I think. I want to start talking about Discord because to be honest, when you guys suggested it, I was like, okay, it sounds like a lot of work. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But I looked into it. And when we actually, again, this is just like the Model 3 discussion. As soon as we actually pulled the trigger and did it, I was like, oh,
this is great.
This is great.
Right. I mean,
there's aspects of it I wish were different. I wish that it was more like Slack where you could have side conversations. So in Slack, if you say I was talking to you about putting solar in my house, you and I could have, and everyone else could join in on a side thread, which would be nice. Here in Discord, the only problem I find is that if we're talking about, my solar installation,
right,
and then you start talking about apples, then it's like,
it's hard to keep a constant conversation.
Right. It's more because I think Discord is for gaming where we're in the middle of a game, we're doing something, and it's like, oh, that was cool,
right,
and then you move on.
But it has been co-opted by many different communities who use it as just a community.
Okay, so let's talk about the part that super excited me about Discord, which is the voice channels. Now, we've shut off voice channels at the moment just because we need to learn more about it, but we're going to turn them on pretty soon. And we wanted to get your feedback on this. We've had a bunch of people already ask us, hey, the voice channels are shut off. We would like you to turn on voice channels. So we're thinking that we'll turn that on soon. Going back to the whole thing of that we need to raise money for this amazing trip that we're going to do and amazing things we're going to do. Let's not forget why you guys are here. You guys are supporting us with money, and the money makes it possible for us to do all this. We were thinking, so right now, $3 is the perk level where people can actually start using Discord. We were thinking at the $5 level, we would turn on voice channels, which would allow people to,
communicate back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I saw two people talking the other day, and they're like, this would be way faster if we could turn on a voice channel and just chat about it. So we're thinking of turning that on soon at the $5 level. Then Jesse and I were talking about this. We tested it out the other day, and we actually did a voice chat. And I was thinking, well, Jesse's at work, and while I'm at work, usually at lunchtime, we'll have a chat about what's going on. And I was thinking it'd be really cool if we could just turn on that chat at some perk level. I'm not sure what yet. And allow everyone on Discord to A, hear us, and B, we might have you muted, but maybe allow for us to be like, oh, Fred just had a cool question. Let's talk to him.
So it'd be a bit like this, except without the video component.
Right.
But we could
we could hear you.
Unmute people, and you could actually talk to us. We could actually hear your voice, which would be kind of nice.
And then another thing I was thinking would be a live stream like this, but instead of you guys having to type your questions and we don't really get to hear you or meet you, would be that you would get to voice, be like a call-in radio show almost, maybe, where it'd be like, and again, I don't know how it works. I haven't done it enough. I don't know how the muting works and how it works if you just let everyone start talking.
Right.
But it would be really cool to have conversations. It'd be like, oh, let's talk to Anders right now about, this, and then chat with him for a while so that everyone can hear that. I think that would be way better. So that's another thing I want to ask you guys about. So I'm thinking something like, $5 would turn on general voice.
Yep.
$10 would turn on the ability to hear Jesse and I kind of chatting during the week sometimes, like random. We wouldn't even announce when it was going to happen. It would just be sometimes. And then something like, I don't know, 15 would be a monthly or bi-weekly or whatever we decide, kind of radio show-ish kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't know, mull that over and think about it. But let us know if that's something you think is exciting or if you're like, that sounds stupid.
Right. And I mean, the reason that we're trying to do this is, obviously we need to raise money for our crazy ideas. And secondly, we do want to create value for people who are willing to support us.
Right.
And we're, with the Discord, I think having it at the $3 level was important. I wanted to try and get as many people as possible on there, on top of the Patreon bonus stories. So you kind of get a package deal. And for you people who pay more than $8 a month to support us, which again, thank you so much for doing. That is another little value boost that we can just add, which I don't know. I think is nice because we're going along paying $8 for this perk, and now all of a sudden you get another perk, and now we can throw in a couple more perks, and maybe maybe depending on the pricing it goes up. But if you're willing to be like, wow, that is some value that I would like to gain, as well as getting a poster and a T-shirt, I don't know. That's kind of the way that we're thinking.
Yeah.
Because we're not just trying to be like, you know, how can we get as much money out of
no,
them
but
as
I mean,
possible?
Earlier on, there was a question, I forget who it was, who asked, you know, how much is this going to cost? And I mean, we've done some preliminary, like, you know, that I'm Mr. Mindwalk, right? I do spreadsheets and I plan things out, but there's so many unknowns at this point. I can't be like, well, this is exactly how much it'll cost to tour the entire world. I've never done it before. But it's going to cost a lot of money. And one of the things Jesse said in the very beginning when we were talking about giving rides in the Roadster was like, Dad, that sounds kind of crazy. And yeah, I think we took kind of a leap and we're just like, you know what? We're only alive on this planet once. And this is an amazing time to be alive. I mean, I think about like, what if you were alive during the first automobile and you were able to tour the country in one of the first automobiles and show the world that? Like, it would change so many minds forever in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine. How many children have we seen at EV events who go, whoa, what is that? And for the first, like, you just changed. They're now going to go find out.
Right. I mean, I watched a YouTube video a while ago on this race, this around the world race in like some of the first automobiles. And it was hilarious, but it was the first time that it had ever been done. So basically they had just invented the car. Like, I forget when this was. It was turn of the century, basically.
Right.
And some very rich people were like, you know, oh, let us have a race, and we shall race between England, America, Germany, and some other ones. So they came together and they started the race off, and they started driving across. I think it was from like France to the coast, and then they shipped their cars to America, and they drove all the way across America with there were no roads, right? It was just like
cow pastures,
roads,
right?
You know, they were driving on railroads. Like, they had to do everything to try and get across the country. They had horses pulling them at many points, and they were all accusing each other of cheating the whole time. But the funny thing is, as they did it, you know, there were places where they just never seen a car before,
right? And
I think that was powerful.
Yes.
I think that, you know, despite all the infighting and the quitting and the unquitting, if you watch it, it's hilarious. You know, people switching teams halfway through, because it was not just one guy in a car. It was like a guy in a car, a mechanic, because it would break down every 10 miles, you know, a navigator, because there's no GPS, right. All this crazy stuff. But and yet it's still remembered. People were, it was the talk of the town at the time.
No, I know. I mean, the people that you remember, the Amelia Earharts, the Lindberghs, those are the people that did stuff that was not charted. It wasn't like a thing that you could do. They just made it a thing, and they're remembered and loved because they pushed. And I mean, I'm not putting us in the same category, but to kind of push and do something like this that's never really been done before, like it. I think it's also because when I was a kid, I saw Smokey and the Bandit at just the right age. Do you guys remember the movie Smokey and the Bandit? And the idea of crossing the country with a fast car and a semi-truck must have gotten stuck in my head. So, like, I think that has a lot to do with it. So, I mean, thank you, Burt Reynolds. I think that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I saw that Michael said that he calculated it'd be about $100,000 to do the this CONUS portion. That's the North American. That's the Canada, North U.S. portion. What does CONUS stand for?
Continuous.
Continuous United States portion, and take about 4 to 6 months.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I've come up with similar figures. It's going to be expensive and it's going to take a long time. But again, the ability to meet amazing people, I think, is priceless. I mean, what I've learned from this channel so far is that it's about people.
Oh, and I mean, we're reaching out and meeting amazing people. And that's the cool part about Patreon, is that it kind of is this filter between people who are like, nice video, dude, and people who are like, wow, I want to support you.
Can I stress that? So I had been feeling for a long time. So Jesse takes care of a lot of the YouTube comments. And by to take care of, I mean that you get...
I go through the swearing and the crazy
He makes it a much more reasonable place to be. But when we did our Model 3 tip last week, was it? It was the essential oils one.
Right.
It was basically showing you how to use, you know, a diffuser in the car. And I mean,
everyone jumped down our throats in the comment section and was like, essential oils can't cure cancer. it's not medicine. And we're like, we did not say that it was medicine.
Right. I mean, like right now, I've got, if you can see in the background, I've got a little diffuser going on. It smells nice in here, and it just makes me feel nice and relaxed.
But
and
it was freaky scary to have so many people. I think it's because it was in the title, and I eventually just took it out of the title. I changed it to scent diffuser because it just like, look,
But do you see how dangerous that is? Because we're nice people and we don't feed off the negativity. That immediate that knee-jerk reaction we got for something like that, where we're just showing you how, hey, if you like the smell of oils in your car, here's a way to get them in your car. We made no health claims. We didn't try and sell anything. And then we get that. And so having Patreons who don't do that to us, like if we mess up, if we say something wrong, you guys just help us. You don't like, you guys suck because you messed up my name, or you messed up the name of this company. Like, that is nice for me, because we are talking a lot. Our videos are just full of content. They're full of we write and write
hours
and write.
long, right? We don't have the opportunity. We can't take Tesla Time News and shorten it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is too long." It's like, dude, do you know how many topics we're covering?
Right.
And you know, yes, it might be nice for me to just say like, Tesla is laying off 7% of its workforce. Next topic. That doesn't get into any of the reasons why it might be happening. It doesn't explain anything like that, you know? And yeah, I mean, sometimes you need to boil down a concept. Like for MindWalk, it took you a long time to write the script, to come up with how it'll flow between episodes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it took years.
And that you're able to put into a 5-minute video. But we, you know, a lot of the time for Tesla Time News and stuff, we can't.
But I do want to point out, to do like MindWalk, so it took me years to develop that strategy that I've worked with kids. And then it took, you know, 2 weeks to script, and then it took 2 weeks to shoot, and then it took 2 months to edit. Like, so to put out a video like that took basically the team months of time.
Right.
If we were to do that only, then you'd get 4 videos out of us a year.
Right. I mean, there are some YouTube channels which come out with wicked, amazing content. Like each video is just a freaking gem.
Yep.
Like CGP Grey and
Michael Stevens.
Michael Stevens back when he was doing his what was it? Vsauce.
But even now with Minefield. But I mean, it's more, he's got a bigger budget.
Right. But you know, you get one every few months.
Right.
But we need to, you know, come up with one every week.
Right.
And talk about everything that happens during that week. So it
just goes back to the fact that you guys being a community that supports us, it
means
actually
that I can mispronounce the name of all of the Chinese cities when we are doing the Supercharger network, and no one's going to be super
we try
mad
to get
at
it right. I'm not
right.
But it gives us this reinforcement of that what we're doing is good. And I can't tell you how valuable that is, because one negative comment can just ruin your day, ruin your week. It's happened before to us, where we get a comment, just some random negative comment about something. And if you're just feeling a little bit unsure of yourself, then it just takes you down a rung.
It's true. Yeah.
And you can't create when you're feeling like that, because then you're doing it from a defensive posture.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is create from a positive place. So again, you guys are just awesome, because when you help us out, you're giving us constructive criticism, which we'll take all day long. Like, that's great.
Right. I want to get to Jeffrey's comment, because he has been very patient in waiting for us to talk about it. He's talking about the right to repair is passing in several states.
Yeah, Massachusetts is one of the only states I know of that has it at the moment. It's a right to repair state.
And I think it's just for cars, right?
Yes.
So he's saying for electronics.
Oh, I see.
So I mean, I think that's nice.
Is it though? Because I just want to ask, if you're trying to create and you try and make something like a cell phone,
sure.
The ability to allow your customers to fix it means you have to open up all the tech, which means that now all of your intellectual property is going to be available to all of your competitors, including companies and countries that don't respect intellectual property. So you have to really be careful of. Also, what's the ability for you to fix a GoPro or an iPhone? Like,
well, right. But the argument to that is a climate change one, that you are able to create less waste by, instead of having to buy an entirely new phone.
Sure, I get that. Except I do want to point out, we don't live in 1920s where something you buy lasts forever anymore. Most of the tech we're talking about is obsolete by its very nature
It's
very
true.
soon. So,
Right.
I mean, I think there should be better waste stream laws for when. I think it should be that you buy a cell phone and the company now has to put into the price of that cell phone what it's going to do with that cell phone when you bring it back to them to recycle it.
That's true. Right. And sometimes companies will, if a company actually cares, they try to have a life cycle analysis of what goes on. But most of the time, it's just like, who cares? Not our problem.
And this brings back kind of remember that story of from Jehu Garcia. He had a friend who would basically take the parts out of different things and resell them. And he was trying to resell old laptops. And all he was trying to do was put that disk in with it that would allow you to have Microsoft. And he got sued, and he's actually in prison right now for 14 months because Microsoft didn't want that. So that's how bad things are. Like,
it's true. Right. Yeah, it's sort of, I think that we need to kind of take a step back as a society and as a culture and just reevaluate a lot of the things that we've been going through.
So much.
Because a lot of times I've noticed this with just about everything. There's kind of like this legacy model, and it's very human of an idea of like, if it works, don't change it, because, but it's a very caveman model.
It is.
And we've talked about this a little bit before of like, if I'm a caveman and we're living in our caveman tribe, and I'm saying caveman, I know that's not, proto-human, whatever you want to say. If we're sitting in our tribe or our group and someone comes back and he says, hey guys, look, I found some new berries. It's smart for us to all be like, no, get those berries out of here. I don't want to look at your berries. Don't talk to me about berries. If you eat those berries, you're going to die. You're going to die. That's the end of the story. Don't eat the berries. Everyone else, no one should eat the berries. And that was very smart. It worked really well because those berries, most of the time, probably poisonous, whatever. It did prevent innovation, right? Because, if Joey came back and he's like, I found some berries, you'd be like, get out of here. And so that just means that for everything that we do, just what did we used to do? Let's keep doing that. That's a good idea. And we're kind of getting to the point where a lot of those like, oh, that's a good idea, don't make any sense anymore.
Well, I think that I found one of the key reasons why if you chart all this horribleness that's happening, I think a lot of it goes along with the destruction of our journalistic system. And I think that Elon's Pravda idea is super powerful. And what I'd like to try with you guys is to actually crowdsource it with you guys. So the first thing I'd like to crowdsource with you guys is a question that's come up about Vampire Drain. I know you're like, what is Zach talking about? So I'll get there. But so Vampire Drain on an electric car, is that if you leave your car parked, it slowly loses a little bit of battery life just while sitting there parked. Why? Because A, sometimes it's doing a little bit of computer stuff. B, batteries aren't perfect. C, it might be communicating. Anyway,
it might be heating
something. Exactly.
Battery warm.
So a big question a lot of people have is, like my mother-in-law, your grandmother, has her Model 3 down in Florida, right? And when she comes up here to visit for a couple of weeks, she leaves it down there maybe. And is she going to lose all of her battery while she's gone? So people have asked me over and over, like, how many kilowatts do you lose? Blah, blah. Problem is, I can give you my example from my specific car, but that's my temperature outside, my car with the certain settings that I have it on. I'm thinking if we crowdsource this so that you guys all help us with a Google form, and so any particular day that you might have left it at the airport, you go back home and you're like, oh, I left it there for 16 hours. I lost 2 kilowatts. Here's the kind of car I have. Here's the temperature. Those 4 bits of information, maybe we'll come up with a 5th.
Yeah, there'll probably be some settings.
Yeah, maybe we'll ask you what settings you left it on. But anyway, that would give us an awesome graph data that we could share with people to be like, oh, if you have a Model 3 and you live in Florida, this is what you can expect to lose under these settings. That would be super helpful. So we're going to be asking for that, not just from you guys, but from pretty much our whole community, I think. But now getting to the next crowdsource thing. Pravda, the idea behind that, right, is that you rank different news sources so that you get a kind of quality rating for that news source. And Clean Technica has already done a fantastic job. They've already started ranking actual writers. And I think that this is super powerful. How often when you read an article, do you even look at the writer's name?
It's true.
I got to be honest, unless it's a writer I really like or something, I don't even usually pay attention.
I think that, yeah, if you read something and you knew the level of bias in that reporting, because there's going to be bias no matter who you no matter who writes it, there's going to be some level of bias because you grew up as a human being and you interacted with the world and it interacted with you. So you're going to have a particular view on the subject, and especially if you have interests or whatever. So if you knew going into it how much bias, when you watch Tesla Time News, you're not going into it expecting us to be like, electric cars, are they good? We're still, the jury's still out on that.
Right.
We're pretty pro EV and stuff like that. So if you're going into it, you're going to be like, Zach and Jesse are very pro EV. I know them because there's no, not a lot of stuff in between my lips and the microphone and the camera, right? I'm not writing it down. You're not reading it off of somewhere else. We do have editors, but they're not generally telling us to rewrite what we say.
Right.
It's pretty much what you see is what you get. But with a lot of newspapers, there's more than, there's more than one person between
and there used to be at a newspaper, news moves slowly enough that you would go out into the field, you'd write your story, you'd bring it back to the editor, and the editorial staff would look at it and with their wisdom and years of experience would go, this doesn't sound right. Go back out there and blah, blah. Right. Or what are your sources? Right. Or give me a second source to back that up or whatever. Nowadays, most of these, there's no filter. The reporter writes it and then it just gets put up online. And so they might do a retraction later to say like, oh, 2 weeks later, like, oh, that was wrong. But for the most part, it's unfiltered. And editors seem to be getting younger and less understanding of how journalism works and sources works and all that stuff. So, the other day I was reading a story about GM and it was so lopsided against Tesla and so forth. Like, GM totally gets it. And Tesla people have not made any effect on the world at all. Blah, blah. And I looked up that author. And I realized that going back just the past few articles he's written over the past year, that he wrote a book about Ford and how great it is, like just a few years ago, and it's going to go bankrupt soon. So I was like, oh, he's a Detroit writer. He doesn't get it, or maybe even worse. Who knows? That's why I'm not mentioning his name. And I was like, okay, so that totally changes my view of how he wrote this article. Whereas if you didn't know that he was in a major newspaper, you'd be like, oh my God. Tesla is not influencing anybody. Right. GM was going to do this all along.
And this is on a pretty what is the word that I'm looking for?
I don't know. Give me something.
It's kind of finesse. It's a pretty this isn't that crazy, right? That what we're talking about here is to know how biased a news source is. This doesn't get into the broader like fake news kind of genre of like, wow, that was a story that was published by a Russian bot or something.
And I'm just
like
thinking,
that,
it doesn't have to be an absolute number. It could be a number that just you want to see. So that way, if you like a certain writer and you like his bent, then it ranks him high for you. Like that would be fine too. I don't know.
I don't think that's what I want, honestly. For people.
The problem I was having when I was trying to come up with this Pravda idea is how do you rank it so that it's not just, a bunch of liberals, hippie liberals ranking one guy and a bunch of ultra conservatives.
Right. I don't want an echo chamber. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So how do you get it so that there's a kind of fair and unbiased ranking of an author or a newspaper? Do you set up like some kind of trusted group, editorial committee of America of the world that like ranks things? I don't think that would work. So yeah, I don't know. But I think that is where we're at. And that's the problem is that there's, let's be honest. It's not like there was a good old days where the newspapers were just so true. Newspapers were always biased and always had their own slant on things and
lying and lying.
Right. So I'm not saying let's go back to the good old days. I'm saying there's got to be a better way to get news out to people that is thoughtful and isn't just giving you what you want to hear in an echo chamber. But that's where we're at right now, people. I mean, a lot of people are on their Facebook feeds and they're just seeing what the algorithm says, oh, you like to hear that kind of stuff? Right. All I care about is your eyeballs. So I'll just keep giving you that.
The only time where this doesn't work really is with Tesla and Elon Musk, because yes, when I pull up my Google Now or whatever it is, gives me a bunch of news stories. It's just looking for, things that I'm interested in. Elon Musk, Tesla, stuff like that. So I get CNBC stories that are ridiculous talking about like, oh, this is the end of Tesla. They fired 7% of their workforce.
But here's the thing. Michael Young just said, I think you already said it, experienced editors. But here's the problem. Editors
are still biased.
And they still have to sell newspapers or sell advertising, whatever they're selling to keep going. And the same thing is true of our channel. Let's be completely honest. I mean, if we lost all of our Patreons and lost all of our YouTube ads and everything and it went to zero, we couldn't keep the show going. So somewhere in the back of our minds, we must be thinking like, oh, we got to keep people happy. So tomorrow, if we're writing stories for Tesla Time News and it's like, let's write about clowns. And you're like, I don't think people want to hear about clowns. We have to be careful, right? Because we could start to lose our audience. And it's true. And that's been an interesting journey for Jesse and I, because we want to just be talking about what we want to talk about. But there's comments and there's, Patreons, and there's people who are like, I don't want you to talk about political things. I don't want to hear about the environment. I want to hear about cars.
It is really scary when I get a message and it's like, I've been watching your channel for years and years, but you and your crazy climate change stuff needs to stop, or I'm going to stop watching. It's like, I want you to keep watching, but I want you to do some research. Like, buddy,
right?
No, I'm not. You, first of all, are not going to convince me that climate change is not real just because you're like, I don't think it's real.
Right.
I fucking dragged my truth across so many studies and so much data that, I would need to have that much data, or you'd need to unravel the truth of the whole conspiracy that all these scientists are just trying to make money by selling this lie. It doesn't work on paper. I meet people who work on these kind of climate things. They are not rich. They are not benefiting from it. They're doing it because they actually think that the world is in trouble.
Well, I mean, so James says here an interesting point. He says, I love that you're interested in this area of study, but I fear that if you get too far down this rabbit hole of a project, it takes your focus away from your mission. And it's true, except that what is my mission? My mission is to move the needle, is to make this change happen faster. It's a lot like Elon's mission, right? He wants to move sustainability faster than it was going to happen without him. And I would like to help him move it faster. So that means I have to kind of understand how people work. Because, I mean, I can keep telling you guys all day that EVs are great, solar is great, right? And I think you guys pretty much believe that. So I want to keep getting you new information about it. But we also want to get those people who never even considered solar or an EV to get into it.
Right.
And so understanding how that works and how to dissuade all of this negativity. I mean, because let's be honest, I say Elon Musk to people, and the first thing that will come back to me is whatever the latest FUD is on him. Oh, I heard they just had to fire a lot of employees. Oh, I heard that he smoked pot. Oh, I heard that he's crazy. Like, they don't report back anything like, wow, I heard that Tesla's the #1 selling, mid-sized luxury car in America. I never hear that.
Right.
Someday I will, and that'll be great.
Right. Well, I mean, but you do bring up a good point, though. I don't think that that his comment is without merit. I do feel that, like, when if we start to lose focus, it's very hard to get anything done.
True.
It's much easier when we kind of narrow that field a little bit. We're able to push through and get out something about the imploding auto and ice oil implosion that's going to happen. Like, that really is important. And it takes a lot of focus to do that. Yeah. And it's hard when we are now trying to split out and say, like, should we be looking into FUD and stuff like that? We counter FUD. We're kind of counter FUD. Right. Which I think is important, but I don't know how much Pravda stuff we're going to get into.
I do. And the other thing that does bother me, though, is this, don't get political.
I agree.
Like, we don't mention the name of our president hardly at all. I've gotten to the point where I'm even afraid to say it because for some reason, if I say it,
it's immediately polarizing, and that's the problem.
Right. And if I say something like Trump's administration decided to do this, then it's like, you guys got political this week. I'm not going to watch you guys anymore.
Right.
And it's like, I just reported on something that happened. Yeah. Like, it's gotten so crazy now that if you do that, it's like, don't stop reporting on fake news. It's like, what? Right. Because a lot of what's going wrong in America right now is from our federal government. I mean, we don't even have an operating government at the moment, right. Which is leading to all sorts of problems. But it's like, I don't know if I even want to keep not speaking my mind on that. Like, I just...
Right.
And I feel like I can share that with you guys because you guys are obviously not just like knee-jerk people. which is great. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, we all have slightly different political views and stuff like that. And I'm not talking about somebody's, so wrong and somebody's so right. I think most of our federal government, for instance, is horribly wrong. Like Democrat, Republican, I don't know what happens when they get to Washington or the kind of person that wants to go to Washington, but most of them don't get it and are part of the problem.
Right.
So I don't know if we should start be talking about why do we have a democracy that works the same way it worked back in the 1700s?
Right. Well, it's tough to have a conversation about it, and I think that's why when we have 26, we're talking to 26 people. You've all paid to be here, that's nice. It kind of at least this is something hopefully that you want to be talking about or hearing about. But it's tough because it quickly gets into party politics and talking points.
Right.
And I freaking hate both of those things. I'm a fairly independent kind of person. I lean I'm on the fence, and I lean in many different directions about many different topics. And I don't think that I'm 100% right on any of them. I'm not, I don't think in any one particular way. I don't follow a particular dogma. I am always trying to challenge myself. That is one of the hardest things to do, I think. And I've been getting better at challenging myself because we have to do it a lot. There's a lot of people who will send me links into articles, into videos about like why EVs are bad or why climate change doesn't exist. And instead of isolating myself from it and saying, no, I will not listen to your argument, I say, fine, bring it on. Let me hear what you have to say about it. And I weigh both sides. I say, okay, I read your article. I listened I watched the video. I think that it's complete crap because of these 3 points. You didn't talk about those 3 points or something else. I am always trying to challenge it. And it creates a very strong, at least especially when we're talking about climate change and electric cars. That's why I'm so hard pressed on it. That's why I don't back down when someone comes at me with some kind of out of the blue, like, oh, but what about, they're just coal mobiles. And it's like, not mine. Mine's a windmobile.
Well, you know what I loved about Greta Thunberg, the 15-year-old girl from Sweden? She was apolitical. She came out and blasted all of us adults.
Right.
She's like, all of you guys are idiots and have led us down this way. So that took out the whole politics part, I thought. Also, the fact that she was willing to sacrifice so much. She basically said, like, I'm not going to go to school on Fridays, which for a kid, that's a huge, just asking them to put on different clothes would be a big deal. Like, so for them to be like, on Fridays, I'm going to go sit on the stairs of my Parliament building and protest was like amazing. And she got all that press for it. And I feel like, how could she do that? And yet we can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, she was willing to break out of her everyday routine so much on a weekly basis, make such a sacrifice. And it's already affected so many people's minds.
It's true.
That if we all did that, it feels like we could affect so much more change. And I think we've been conditioned to think that we don't have that kind of power, that we don't have the ability to change anything. I mean, once you get to my age, you're just like, we can't change the system. Even voting doesn't feel like it matters.
Right. And if you're at my age, you're like, well, we should probably just burn everything down and then start again, which is also not that productive because as soon as you start to burn stuff down, you're like, oh, all of the problems that are in this system just kind of exaggerate. You're like, oh, racism. It's like, as soon as you get rid of a lot of society, racism just escalates. It gets way worse because suddenly now without, if you go to complete anarchy, it gets terrible. And so, you have to balance between this complete complacency and this anarchy, so upset that you just want to burn everything. You have to balance that. And I think that's kind of why the show works so well, is because we're kind of in between, not that you're complacent. And not that I do want to burn down lots of different places.
And I want to write more letters, and I want to go campaign for more people. I mean, we have friends that went up to Maine and helped campaign for Jared Golden, who ran for Congress up in Maine. He ran against an incumbent and he actually won. I mean, it was so nail-bitingly close and it went to court multiple times. But if you've been following U.S. politics, you'd be like, it's amazing that flipped. And they went door to door, on cold days in, up in rural Maine where you have to drive miles just to get to one house, and there'd be dogs barking at them and people with shotguns. And seriously, like I had long conversations about this. And to think that maybe if that couple hadn't gone and done that, that we'd have a different congressman in that particular district. Like, and it took them basically going like, well, yeah, we're just going to do this.
Right.
That's basically how things get done.
Right. It is stepping out of your comfort zone,
and it's talking to people.
Doing so.
I mean, because they actually, they got people. I heard the stories. They got like husbands and wives to actually split votes. They got a wife to go like, well, I think I will vote for Golden, and the husband going like, no, you're not gonna, and like, oh my God, that must have been uncomfortable. Yeah. And those kinds of things happen. Why? Because they got out of their car and went to someone's door and just talked and spread some information. Like, wow.
Right.
So because if enough of us, if we could get that critical mass, going back to what Jesse talked about with PayPal and with EVs, when we get to that critical mass, it will change. That's what's always happened throughout history. The question is, what is that critical mass and how fast can we get there? And what can we do to affect getting there faster? And that's what I want to figure out. That's why I'm so excited about driving the Roadster across the country, because I know that will actually make changes that we can't even fathom at this moment. Right. Why? Because it's a sexy car, probably red, if I get my way. I'm going for that. Will turn eyes and turn heads and get people to stop what they're doing and go, whoa, there's like a parade. I'm going to go follow that and show up there at lunch and go, what is all this about? How did that car go so fast and make no noise? What? There's no tailpipe on that car? What? Who made this car? What is this? Oh, it's made in America? Right. Like what? That's what's exciting to me, because I know that will change minds
far greater than Facebook comments and Facebook statuses or even YouTube videos. Right. I mean, it's amazing what we've done with YouTube, but I kind of have a feeling that we didn't convince too many people from the opposite end of the spectrum to overhear.
Right.
I don't think that happens with a YouTube video. I don't think that there are too many of you watching who are like totally anti-EVs and then suddenly watch one of our videos and change your mind, or even continue to watch our videos until your mind was changed. I think that it really takes a big step to get someone to, have the ball start rolling to changing someone's mind.
I've been reading your comments as we've been talking, and I love that we're having such awesome thoughts, like that we're sharing such, and the only downside to this is that it's in written form and that I can't hear you because I'm a very audible person. I love to hear. Yeah, I'm an auditory person. I love to hear people's talking so that I can understand better. And that's, I guess, why I'm going back to the Discord voice. I'm so excited about that, because I feel like those chats, you don't need this video component that much. Let's be honest. I mean,
it's just a lot of this.
Yeah, it's a lot of Italian.
I think it helps a lot, but I don't know if you need it.
But I love that we're having we're just talking about a good chunk of our disempowerment comes from the fragility of our healthcare system. Like that, yes,
these are the conversations that we need to have. It's funny that we're an EV channel predominantly, EV sustainability channel, and yet that I think we've just sort of gotten to this chunk of folks, 26 people who are watching right now, who are actually able to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and can we talk about EVs for a second? EVs to me is a kind of fun, sexy part of sustainability.
Absolutely.
Talking about solar panels, I love it. I could do it all day. But for most people, their eyes glaze over at some point, unless you have a solar system on your roof, and even then, it gets boring. I mean, you put it on your roof, you forget about it.
It's really exciting when you talk about camping, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, if I'm camping, I could also watch TV.
Right.
Because I think we're very complacent and used to having just plugs just all around our house.
Right.
Being able to just be like, plug in TV.
Maybe that's why I don't like going camping.
Because you don't have the convenience of...
Well, yeah,
that is why most people don't like camping.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, for people who like to camp or like being out in the outdoors or just going away from wherever they live and not having to spend a lot of money camping, having a solar system is like, whoa, this is great. So people with RVs and stuff like that, it's very freeing. And again, there's a lot of different aspects that lead into EVs. You don't need to be a liberal to like EVs. You can be like, I want to not depend on foreign oil or oil in general. I want to produce my own energy. Solar panels. Boom. Freedom.
I want to talk about, so James just said, since we're on the YouTube subject, I wanted to commend you on the ICE oil collapse video of a few weeks ago, which is the first video I saw and was hooked. Thank you. So hard to even have that conversation, I feel, until you're understanding a lot of the other pieces that go into it. Like, it was a very hard argument for us to lay out because you have to understand and believe in a bunch of the assumptions that we've made to get there and a bunch of the arguments that we make. And you have to understand history. And see, we don't teach history correctly in school, in most school systems. So
we don't teach a lot of things.
My 16-year-old is taking American history right now, and she's had to cram for her midterms on the 1930s. And I feel like all the energy that was wasted in having her cram for a midterm, she's going to remember those details for a few days, and then they'll be gone. Better to have her understand concepts and learn really what happened in the 1930s. And that's not happening. So she's not able to apply that to what's happening today. And they never get past there, by the way. They always get to 1950s roughly, and then they stop as if, well, that was good. That was history, right?
And you know the rest.
Yeah, 1950s and then today. Right. I mean, those past 80 years, super important because that's much of how we got here.
And I mean, I also reading through the comments, yes, like education, big thing. I have a bone to pick with the educational system in this country and many countries. I don't think that it works anymore. I think that it used to, if you went to school, you were like some kind of, you were a patrician in the Greek or the Roman, sense. Like I went to go learn. Now you need to learn because there's a lot of stuff to know.
Right.
Catch up, people. You're not going to be working in the fields all day.
Right.
And I think that,
it doesn't teach you how to work with others. It doesn't
teach you how to be a human.
It doesn't teach you how to solve problems.
Right. I would love to. I mean, I have a list of basically a bunch of different stuff of like how to do your taxes, what to do if you get pulled over by a police officer, what are your rights, how to vote, why you should vote, why, all sorts of stuff that just gets kind of glossed over or not talked about at all.
Why the electoral system doesn't work.
Right. How to balance a checkbook.
And Elon Musk doesn't have his kids in our educational system. He created his own school.
Jury duty. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. What? There should just be.
We spend more time figuring out how to get out of jury duty than we talk about. Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And I went to jury duty one day. I had to go to jury duty. So I went and they sat you down. And this is like the first time anyone there knows about jury duty.
Right. Because they play the little video, right?
They play the little video of like, you're a superhero, blah, blah, blah. I'm a judge. Welcome to your judicial system, which you probably have never experienced before, but you're going to have to judge somebody. There's going to be a dude and he's possibly committed a crime and you're going to decide whether he did or not. Like that is the level at what we're getting to. Yeah. We don't teach how climate change works in schools. No, it's because you need to be lucky. You need to have a good teacher that teaches it.
You have to have a teacher that sneaks it into the system because your curriculum, we're in Massachusetts, okay? One of the liberalist states. And yet you can go ask most of the school districts in the 351 towns in the state, and they will not say that they're totally on board with climate change and what's actually happening.
They'll teach it to their students.
And they're also afraid because they're going to get that same crazy parent who comes in one day and says, I heard you're teaching climate change to my son. So that's what they have to deal with. That's how bad it is.
And it's at the same level as the creationism in what year was that? The 30s, the 50s, probably was the 70s.
California pays $15 a day to jurors starting on the second day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why you can't afford to be on a jury because you're like, I'm barely making my living.
Get out of it.
Exactly.
And there's no sense of duty. There's no sense of pride that is instilled in students at all. There's no like your work is valuable. There's no your work anymore.
Why aren't students in high school allowed to do jury duty and like mock jury duty, like where they're allowed to be in on the jury but not have a vote that counts or something? Like that would be great.
If we and that's the kind of stuff that I think about often. EVs are a big component of it, and that is the focus of our channel. I mean, I do want to point out that that is what we are trying to focus on. We have lots of other crazy things to talk about. Not crazy, but lots of things that don't get talked about for some ridiculous reason. And usually when the cool thing about our channel is that a lot of the people who watch it and a lot of the people who are connected with us, as soon as we meet them, like Mr. G, we start talking. And it's just like boom, 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 all these points all at the same time. And we're like, wow, we're best friends. We didn't need to. We've known each other for all of maybe an hour. Right. And we're already like completely clicking. Right. It's just weird. It's freaky how sometimes I can meet someone who's watched my channel for a while and we can just have a conversation like good friends. It's really interesting.
Well, I mean, it's pre-weeded out people who obviously agree with you enough to watch you.
It's true. I mean, it's true. So. I mean, it's wild. I am always afraid that I'm in an echo chamber, but there's a lot of stuff that we need to watch about.
Well, but I mean, what's nice is we're not in an echo chamber. These people aren't saying all like, you're right, you're right. They're saying really good points about things like, well, guys, I don't know if you should go too far in this direction. You know, blah, blah. So it's like, it's nice because we're getting actual good feedback.
Yeah, and that's why you're here.
I kind of think of this group of people as our like advisors, you know,
like a council.
Yeah, like the Council of Tesla Time News.
Council of Patrons. I mean, a list of channels that I watch. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Yeah. Some of them are
Tom Scott.
Some of them are absolutely.
I love Tom Scott, which is things that you might not know, right? Things you need to know, things you might not know.
Some things you.
Great. Tom Scott's awesome. I love Michael Stevens from Vsauce and from Ryan Field.
I've just been on a kick about like survival. So I was watching like Dave Canterbury for like 3 months, watched probably like 500 videos of his. I'm looking into blacksmithing now. So I'm watching.
I love Joe Rogan because again, like 2 or 3 hour conversation with someone. I'm not saying all of the guests that I like, but even guests that I don't like, I like that there's a conversation. It doesn't just resort to shut up. It's a conversation. Right. One of the few places I will say on the internet where you get a guy who invites people on, some that he agrees with, some that he doesn't, and has conversations.
Right. That's amazing. I watch a lot of in the YouTube algorithm absolutely hates this, but I watch 2 conflicting viewpoints because I'm on the fence about a lot of things, and it's very hard to get the YouTube algorithm to work when you're like, you know, I'm going to watch a video that's anti-trans people and then watch a video that's pro-trans people, and so I can just hear both sides and get my view. YouTube is like, after you watch the first one, you just start you're just like, I know what kind of person you are. Here's a bunch of racist stuff, or you know, really insensitive. And then you watch the other thing, and it's like, let's talk about that thing. And you're like, just give me both sides. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear about it. I want to learn, and I want to hear people's different experiences. Like that's the value of YouTube. It's so weird how it will. You watch one video and it'll just throw you down a rabbit hole.
It's true.
It's pretty wild. Anyway.
Well, lastly, as we're wrapping up here, first of all, I've again been reading all your comments and I really love them.
Yes.
We would, since we're doing the Model 3 tips show now, we would love if you guys have any questions you have about the car, any tips that you guys already have about the car, to let us know, because we're constantly building out our list and readjusting our list, and we're really excited about that part of the show because I kind of want to get back to being in the car more, you know, and this gives us an excuse to go out there and like film stuff. So like next week's, you know, we went out and tested whether or not how the dash cam on the Model 3 works. And I hadn't seen footage from our actual Model 3 because I hadn't really used their dash cam, and I was pretty shocked. So
it was disappointing.
Now, not that they can't improve upon it, but like I would never use that dash cam as a trusted dash cam. No. And I wouldn't even call it a dash cam. Like, funny that they even thought that that was something worthy of rolling out. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it uses some kind of compression codec.
It's super zoomed in. So it's like if you were looking through this.
And then it's 4:3, so it's not widescreen or anything. Right. And it's super, if you're going a normal speed, everything is very pixelated. You can't read the license plate on the car in front of you. In fact, you have trouble telling what kind of car it was. So I was like, when there's so many, and it was $100. There's like $100 dash cams out there that can do anything you want. Right. So why did they feel the need to include that if it wasn't that helpful? I was just like, I would love to be on Elon's board of elders. Yeah. Give him a little advice. You know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would love to be like a fixer
Fixer.
Is that too mafia term?
I like it though. I like it. I'm the fixer.
Right. I mean, worried about the hard drive space, but you can pop in a 64 gigabyte stick.
Right. You can pop in.
I would be like, I think
they were. I don't think it was the hard drive space they were worried about. I think it was the
computer
usage or something, like flowing that data when it also had to be processed by other computers. I don't know. Who knows? Jimmy Dore's great. I'm not a huge fan of Philip DeFranco.
I need to watch
both.
I need to counterbalance him out. Right. I can't just watch him. He's
which one? Philip DeFranco?
Yeah, he's very one-sided.
Right. I mean, well, and so is Jimmy Dore, but I like a lot of his stuff. Cold Fusion. Yes, I like Cold Fusion too. Mm-hmm. And there was a question here about Model 3. Model 3, is it easy to fix seats for babies? Is there enough space? Yeah, like
definitely enough space.
There's definitely enough space.
Definitely enough space.
No question you could put 2 car seats in the back. The question that we haven't tested yet is whether you could fit 3. We have gotten that question.
I think that it would depend on the car seat.
It would depend on the car seats, yeah.
But I mean, it has the anchors in the back, which you basically just kind of fold up the back corner of the back seat, and you flip that up, and you can clip in the things. Right?
Bjorn from Norway is in the U.S. right now. I didn't even know that. What state is he in? It'd be cool to meet up with him. We've met him a couple times at events, but it would be cool to actually
had a conversation.
Right. We're always so busy at those events. And just to speak of those events, because it reminds me of what we're doing here. When we're at Tesla events, like unveilings and stuff like that, you're with like 1,000 other people that get it. And it's kind of cool because, yeah, we get it right now, but we're virtual. When you're actually in a space with 1,000 other people that all get it, it's really kind of cool. It's like going to like a rock concert or something where you're like, we all love this band. It feels like you're all part of the same team. It's really cool. Anyway, that was awesome. Jesse and I really look forward to these. I mean, there's a snowstorm about to come, so we have to get out there and get ready for that. Right. I was afraid we'd have to cancel this, so I'm really glad this happened. Yeah. And it sounded like a lot of people liked the time, so we can shoot for that. Obviously, the people in Australia probably don't like this time. Right. And they aren't here to tell us about it. True. So that's an echo chamber problem, I guess. I should be careful of.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked a lot about some pretty broad.
Yeah, we went all over the place
and stuff like that. If any of you aren't on Discord, you have it. If you're watching this, you have Discord.
Right. And we can pick up conversations there.
Basically, the way that you do it is you go onto your Patreon account. You go to the account page. I can actually.
Well, if they scroll down on the perk side, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's right there. If you go to the $3 perk, the 2 links that you need are right there.
Those are the links. I just want to, for anyone who's not on there, you go to your Patreon account.
And James, yes, this stream is monthly. We try and do it once a month.
Yes. But basically, you go to your account, you link it with your Discord account. So you need to create a Discord account. You can use it on the computer too. Discord works in browser. It also, you can download an app to your computer. It works on your phone. Yep. So it's a very versatile app, versatile thing. So you can do that everywhere. I just want to make sure that everyone's on there because it's awesome, and you're already paying for it. So you may as well get it. Not that your bill has gone up or anything like that. You're not.
We love the Osmo Pocket, by the way. Where is that?
Yeah. Where is it exactly? That's the.
We're talking about this little camera. I used this to film the Boring Company event. That's the only camera I brought, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, this thing's sweet because it has a gimbal, right? Looks just like from a drone, and so it keeps everything nice and stable, even if I'm whipping it around or jumping up and down. Yeah,
it made travel so much easier. So we're going to definitely be using that a lot. And I love these new technological thingies.
I mean, when we started, we had
like a GoPro
and a Canon
T3i.
Yeah, and now we have a G7X, and it's all a lot of learning.
Cool. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
we're gonna go start getting ready for shoveling,
and also writing the news.
Right.
We have to
that's true. We have
to record the news and shovel all this weekend. So
if we look a little tired tomorrow, you'll know why.
Wish us luck. And
gotta go find my back brace. All right, see you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.